I'm guessing that you either have a will or you certainly know the importance of having a will. But I wonder if you've ever thought about a legacy plan. A legacy plan is in addition to your will. It doesn't replace it, but it expands upon it. It shares some of the emotional aspects of the things that you've documented. The goals of a legacy plan are things like peace of mind for you, comfort and support for your loved ones when they're going through a very difficult time, and also a greater likelihood that you're going to leave behind harmony in your family relationships. It's what most of us want to do. So, if you're thinking about expanding your will and creating a legacy plan, I want to share with you some of the elements you might want to include. There are other elements beside what I'm sharing here, and what you want to do is pick and choose what's most important to you. So, one of the elements that you might want to address in a legacy plan is about protection for you and your family. Obviously, this is something that's also in your will. For example, if you're a young family, likely you've named a guardian for your children. But I'm wondering, have you left behind any instructions for them? Have you shared any of the life lessons you'd like them to pass on to your children? Have you shared anything about how you'd like your children to be nurtured? These are the kind of things you can put in a legacy plan. Another element you might want to include are core values and family beliefs. Now, this covers a lot of ground, but think about what's most important about your family that you might want to share. And this could include a family history that you leave behind for future generations. You might also want to include a section here on advice or guidance for future generation. Think about the wisdom that you have gained over the years. Here's an opportunity to share this with the generations you may never meet. Another element that you might want to include is an explanation of items that you've put in your will. So here's what I mean about that. Perhaps you left differing amounts of money to your heirs. Oftentimes people do that, but they don't leave behind the explanation for why they did that. Your legacy plan is a great opportunity to share what your thinking was and why you did that. And the purpose of that, again, is to prevent resentment among the siblings after you're gone, or just that sense of not understanding what your thinking was. Another thing you could do is explain why you chose the executor you chose. Now, this may seem like a funny thing to say. Being an executor is such a huge responsibility, but it's often also seen as a real honor. And I have heard in many families where someone has said, I don't know why my parents chose my sister or my brother. Here's an opportunity to share with everyone why you made those choices. Again, it can prevent a lot of resentments. Another aspect of a legacy plan can be about relationship issues that maybe you haven't been able to resolve. Obviously, the ideal is to resolve them now, but if you can't, you can write about them in a legacy plan. Perhaps there are people that you want to forgive or ask forgiveness from. Maybe there's some unfinished business for you that you want to take care of in this legacy plan that you're creating. Another element can be further explanation of how you want your assets distributed. Now, in your will, I'm sure you've talked about your monetary assets and anything that has some value. However, you may not have thought about the emotional value of things that don't have monetary value. And this is often where families get hung up. Have you thought about how you'd like your possessions to be distributed after you're gone? Are there some possessions you absolutely want a specific person to have? These are things you can address in a legacy plan. If you talk to estate lawyers, they will tell you that oftentimes the greatest arguments in families are about things that have no monetary value, but have emotional value, and people are fighting over them after their parents are gone. In your will, it's likely you now have something about digital assets and how those will be dealt with. But you may need to put more information in a legacy plan. Perhaps you need to talk about your passwords and where they can be found or where all your online accounts are. Think about whatever might make it easier for your family in the aftermath of your death. And another section that often people don't think about is to include something about what you would like for funeral arrangements. Is there something that matters to you in a service after you're gone? I've heard people say, well, I don't want to be controlling. This is really up to my family. And then I've heard the family say, I wish I knew what my parent would have wanted. I want to honor them the way they want to be honored. So if there are things that matter to you, make it easier on your family and put that in your legacy plan. I've had the opportunity to see what happens to families after the death of a loved one. In the midst of grieving, there is often confusion and conflict that could have been easily avoided if there'd been a legacy plan that included some of what I've mentioned here. I hope you'll choose to leave behind peace, harmony, and order by creating a legacy plan to go along with your will. I know your family's going to be grateful, and I also know you're going to have more peace of mind.